sunny Sunday across Ontario. I hope you got to enjoy some of the sunshine if you are indeed tuning in today from the province of Ontario. For those that don't know me, my name is Frank Ferragini, aka Frankie Flowers of City TV's Breakfast Television. I come here each and every week at 7 o'clock, and I'm shortly before 7 o'clock, to help you with some of your garden woes out there, to help you get growing, to get in the garden know. So if you have any questions whatsoever, any questions, if you hit them in the comments, I'll do my best to answer those questions for you, of course. It is go time, grow time, I would say. We went through a week of some chilly conditions, but through that week, we saw sunshine on the weekend. And I've just been seeing things popping outdoors, starting already to see some things go into flower, especially some of the spring flowering bulbs, including tulips and daffodils, starting to see lots of those buds crack out there on the trees as well. So with that, this is a time where we really have to, a lot of questions kind of happen. So first, I want to give a shout out to all those that I joined me just this weekend, that is Saturday at Oakville's Home Show. We had a wonderful little chat there, and a lot of the things I'm going to chat about tonight are just kind of reaffirming the things I talked about on that day. We got Tracy Reynolds giving us a shout out first and foremost this evening. Hey, Tracy, how you doing as well? We also got Carolyn calling us or dropping a little bit of hello, good evening from Montreal. So much coming up now. It's amazing what's coming up here. In Oshawa, I agree. Today in Oshawa, beautiful day there. Tanya giving us a shout out too. Good evening, Tanya, who's been working super hard. Tanya Carvalho is an excellent resource when it comes to the world of annuals and perennials. She works super hard out there for Ball. That is one of the breeders and growers that are out there. There's the shout out as well from good old Oshawa, where it was a gorgeous day as well. Connie saying it was a gorgeous day. I agree, Connie. And then we got also Chris giving a little bit of shout out there saying good evening. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what's going on, what's growing on. First, your lawn. At this time of the year, we did see significant rainfall just last week. And it depending upon where you're watching me right now, you could be watching me in Montreal or anywhere across the country or even in the United States. The key is if we go on our lawn and it feels spongy underfoot, basically the lawn is wet. As soon as we feel that sponginess, the lawn is saturated with water. So what happens if we were to walk and work on that is we would create additional compaction. So first thing we want to do is we want to allow the soil to firm up. Next, it is too early in the season to put grass seed down because grass seed needs a soil temperature of about 17 degrees Celsius to germinate. Maybe down in southwestern Ontario, my friends in Leamington and Windsor, you could be applying some grass seed, but we really want to wait till about the 1st of May. So we're waiting almost to mid-spring for that. Now that things are growing outdoors, things are actively growing outdoors, now is the time where we can put a fertilizer down. We can put a turf builder fertilizer or even a green max fertilizer to get things greened up because things are starting to germinate outdoors. Even though grass seed is a little bit early, but we could see some germination. We're nearing the end to be able to put down a weed and feed. If by chance you had grubs on your lawn, you could put a grub control down, but once again, you want to do that before a rainfall. So really with your lawn right now, what we want to do is wait for it to firm up. We'd maybe want to rake off a bunch of debris off there. We'd want to give it a fertilizing, and then we would really just want to leave it alone because Mother Nature is going to give us some rain. So that's a little bit long, and then we'll top into some other things kind of as well. So we got a shout out there from Rockwood this evening as well. That's from Patricia. Hi, Patricia. We got Len saying hello in Tottenham. I was in Tottenham today, visiting my son's friends with my boys. We got Michelle from Windsor saying there. We got Matthew as well, giving a shout out this evening as well. Hey, Matthew. We got Linda. Linda is asking, what about grub killer? The skunks are active. So yes, indeed. You could put Grub Be Gone down now because the grubs, normally the grubs would be deeper in the surface. Because we didn't really have a winter, we had more of a non-winter. The grubs are a little bit higher up in the surface. So we have two options. We can either do Grub Be Gone or we could do nematodes. Both options though, and my preferred one, of course, is Grub Be Gone. What we need to do is the lawn should be wet before you apply. You want to apply it down and then you want to water it in. So always best to be doing just before a rainfall or in between rainfalls. Once again, Grub Be Gone can be purchased pretty much anywhere. So that's the whole idea. When do you apply weed and feed? So a little bit about weed and feed. If you're watching us in the province of Ontario, we're underneath what's called the cosmetic pesticide ban. That cosmetic pesticide ban really limits the application of several herbicides, insecticides, and fungicides. So when it comes to weed control, if we're buying a weed and feed in Ontario at our garden centers, at our home improvement stores, that weed and feed would be one that has corn gluten. Corn gluten is an active ingredient in that weed and feed that will coat any weed seeds and not allow them to germinate for up to 6 weeks. So with that, if we're applying a weed and feed, we need to do it while the seeds are in dormancy. So we're getting a little bit late. Right now would be probably you're still in the window that you could do it. But also after applying a weed and feed down, you can't apply grass seed down for 6 weeks because that's how long it'll stay active there and germinate and cover those seeds, preventing them to germinate. This is really important if you have a crabgrass problem. This is really good for crabgrass. If you have dandelions, dandelions are a perennial weed, and this is not the strategy to kind of reduce them. The strategy to reduce them is to use something called Weed B Gon, which is actually an chelated iron, or hand removing, digging out the dandelions. And if you dig out dandelions, you got to make sure you remove the taproot, because if you don't, you're just going to have more dandelions that happen there. We got Susan with a question this evening as well. Good evening. Is it too early to transplant peonies? Thanks from Whitby. I think right now is a fantastic time to be transplanting peonies. The eyes of the peony are just starting to come up, so you can easily move them. The key is if we're moving them, we don't want to disturb the root ball. So when we go to dig, we're going to dig a little bit further than what we see those eyes on the outside. We're going to try to remove the entire root ball. And when we go to move them to the new locations, we don't want to really disturb the soil around that root ball. So how can we do that? We could actually get even a towel, like an older towel or an older bed sheet, and even just tuck it around the base of that peony, the root mass, and then you're going to move it over to the new hole, drop it in, and then just pull the towel out or pull the blanket out, and then that would allow that root mass to sit in. But doing it during cooler temperatures, greater frequency of rain, and using something like a quick start or transplant fertilizer. Miracle-Gro has the quick start. That one there would actually reduce the level of shock that will happen. Judy Miller has a question as well. Can I put peppers in pots beside a cement driveway, or is it too hot? Judy, peppers love the heat. The key is making sure that you water. If you don't water often enough and they dry out, then we're going to have a problem on that fruit of the peppers setting in. I would be putting them in a larger pot on the side of the driveway, almost 20-inch diameter. More soil mass, and the peppers will do good. The more heat, the better it is out there. We got Tanya saying that her strawberries and her chives are up. Mine too. I got to tell you, we're growing. Things are coming quick. It's coming quick, let me tell you. Twiggy, I like your name, Twiggy. Frankie Flowers, is Creeping Charlie edible? If we can't get rid of it, can we at least eat it? I know it's not poisonous. Let me just see here, but I don't know, Charlie. I don't think it's something you want to eat. It's nothing great. Historically, Creeping Charlie was used medicinally as well as a food source. It can be eaten raw or used for tea, but the leaves can also be cooked. Any way you use it is a good source of vitamin C. Finding some locally grown is an easy way of increasing the nutritional values of salads. So, I don't know how it tastes. That's a little bit of information that I just saw. Creeping Charlie is a common household plant. No, it's actually a perennial weed. Poses no toxic threat to humans. Its lack of harmful components make it a safe addition to homes. Not safe addition. It's safe addition to the interior homes, maybe in a pot. So there's a lot of information out there, but indeed it's not toxic. Of course, when I wrote the book, Power Plants, we looked at all the different plants that grow around, including weeds that grow around our homes that have medicinal value. Creeping Charlie was not one that came up on our hit list, our high list, we would call it. Dandelion's one that came up. Queen's Anne, Lamb's Quarters was another one that came up. Pig's Weed, which is also Kalu. Those are all ones that are good out there as well. Judy saying that she can't hear me at this time. Just confirm if everybody else can hear me. I think so. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me? I hope so. Matthew, we got Carol Jones saying hello too. Hello from Quebec. The snow is melting. We got Tracy Reynolds as well. Excited for spring flowers to become available in the floral industry this month. Snowball, viburnum, lilacs, lily of the valley. Of course, those will all be locally grown. Viburnum, somebody asked me this just yesterday at the talk that I did in Oakville, is snowball hydrangea? No, snowball, European snowball, is from the viburnum family, actually quite fragrant, quite nice as well. We got another shout out here as well. Shelly Johnson, thank you for your talk yesterday at the home show. Can I split rhubarb now? Yes, indeed. The only thing is by splitting rhubarb right now, you may impact this year's yield. But if you want to split it and it's become big and it's one that's been there for several years, while it's just starting to pop out of the ground, is a perfect time to be splitting the rhubarb as well. Okay, I want to show you guys some things because we're just talking about the home show. Some of the other things that I'll be up to over the next little bit. A little question about what's growing on. Let's see indeed what's growing on with Frank. That's a picture, by the way. I can show you that. That's a picture of my family Bradford greenhouse. That's one of the growing greenhouses right now where the pansies are all popping and getting ready for you to be putting them in. The Burlington Home Show. Just to let you know, I will be at the Burlington Home Show on April the 20th, 2024. That there is at the Appleby Ice Center at 2 p.m. If you can, join me there. As well, I'll be at the Milton Home Show. That'll be on April the 27th at 2 p.m. That is on Main Street West in Milton, Ontario. I'll see you then. I will also be at the Collingwood Home Show on April the 28th. That's at Alpine Ski Club in the Blue Mountains. You can find more information, of course, on all these. I'll be listing them on frankieflowers.com. For those that were wondering about last week's giveaway, the winners last week of the giveaway from Miracle-Gro, which was the seed starting mix, as well as the new seed starting fertilizer. Andrea was a winner. Elizabeth McKenzie was a winner. Kristen Parrott was a winner. Mary Hellborn was a winner. Lisa White was a winner. And Pat Fleet. You guys all won those gifts. And then also for those that are wondering about some more information, and of course, you can always email me, Frankie at frankieflowers.com. So that's just a little bit about what's growing on and where you can see me coming up in the next little bit as well. So we got Shelly. Thank you for your talk yesterday at the home show. That was the one we just did there. We got Teresa. Hello from Perry Sound. Can I plant apple trees on a hill? Do you have any tips for a successful transplant? Honeycrisp apples. So the difficulty that you're going to have in Perry Sound is the zone hardiness is not, they will be marginally hardy there and they don't do well in areas like Perry Sound, especially on a higher elevation that would be exposed to high winds. Honeycrisp is a variety that is most best to be planted in a zone 5, will tolerate a zone 4, but in Perry Sound, especially in some of the higher elevations, you could be a borderline zone 3. So I would say that it is a risk. Will it do well? It would be better to be planted in an area that would be a little bit lower of an elevation, sheltered a little bit from winds, from exposure of the northwest winds that are out there. The only thing is if you're located closer to Georgian Bay, it could be a little bit of a microzone that's there, a little bit of a microclimate. So, but I would, in my experience up in Muskoka, Perry Sound with fruit-bearing trees, some do well, but overall it's a challenge is the best way for me to describe it. Carol, should I start my calla lilies in containers indoors early? I would start them now. Yes, indeed. So the calla lilies, you can even be, if somebody's interested in growing calla lilies, you can find roots of many and tubers of many of the different canna lilies and calla lilies available at your garden centers right now. And to get a jump start, I would indeed start them in pots indoors and then plant them out. Calla lilies are a little bit more fickle in comparison to a canna lily. Calla lilies are very beautiful, a nice flower, but a shorter bloom period and a little harder. So if you're looking for something that performs better, nice in the center of a pot, also gets bigger and taller, I would go with a canna lily versus a calla lily. We got Linda. Hi, Linda. Can you recommend an evergreen tree that doesn't drip sap and pine cones? So you're looking for something that's larger in size. So of course, most of the evergreens that we have available, they get fairly large for privacy. We're looking at pines, and then we're looking at a lot of spruce. We have white spruce, Colorado, blue spruce. But another nice addition is some of the hemlocks. The Canadian hemlocks are quite nice, and they don't really drop pine cones because they're not that large of pine cones. Spruce trees really don't have as large of a pine cone. They're a smaller cone, but they can drop sap. So really the other part too is where is this tree placed? Because of the size of these trees, it might not be the best selection for you. So Linda, I would love to know why you want this tree. Is it for privacy? Where is it planted? And then showing me some pictures would be an ability for me to give you maybe a better recommendation of something you haven't even thought about. So Frankie at frankieflowers.com, you can send me a picture there. We got Carol, which is saying, tell me, Frank, have you ever tasted young shoots of hosta fried in butter? I'm patiently waiting for mine to grow. Yummy. I've actually never done that. I've never done that. So, and you know, really when it comes to young shoots, often what we talk about is the fiddleheads. The fiddleheads are the young shoots of ferns, mostly the ostrich ferns. And we can find native ostrich ferns in our forest, and those guys there fried up, beautiful. But the tender shoots of hostas fried in butter, never done it. We'll need to try it. And Carol, thank you for that suggestions as well. If anybody else has tried it on this, shout out. Tell me what you think as well. I love some of the different things that we can forage around our properties. You know, we were just talking about Creeping Charlie, talking now about fiddle leaf. You know, wild leeks would be available right now too that you could actually go forage for at this time. We got Suze MC saying good evening. Good evening to you as well. The Cake Pop Sisters. Yo, good evening to you too. Tanya, give me a little that she can hear me as well. Maybe the people that can't hear me, maybe it was like somebody you're married to, because sometimes that happens. That's a bad joke, but I hope you smiled with that. We got a lot of yes, they can hear me. So that's a confirmation that people can hear me out there, which is good. We got as well. Thank you. Knowing that it isn't toxin is good, worth a try. I like my name too. Twiggy too. There you go. Samantha, question about jade plants. I got my jade plant sitting right here beside me. Why is my jade plant dropping leaves? Often, jade plants will drop their leaves due to stress, and that stress is often a result of too much water. Jade plants as well do not like to be in too big of a container. So if you just repotted your jade plant and you're watering often, that's the reason why the jade may be dropping leaves. Another reason why it could be dropping leaves, if you see any sticky substance on it, could be an insect problem, but more often than not is too much water. My jade plant, I'm watering it maybe at maximum once a month. That's it. Okay, and that's even a small jade plant, small pot that's there as well. So we got Tanya giving us a comment and or question. Last year, my red maples had mildew. Is there something I can use this early spring to prevent this from happening this year? Good question. Powdery mildew is something that happened quite rampantly right across many areas. And usually the powdery mildew that we see on maples is more of an environmental factor than really anything that you've done. Key, Tanya, and key for those that had that white little film on their red maples and even on other plant material is we want to make sure that any existing leaves, so today, tomorrow, over the next little period of time, any of those leaves from last year, we really want to rake those up. For some plants, what we could do is put a dormant spray kit down. It's too late in the season to do that. As well, maples do not like the dormant spray kit. So outside of just really cleaning up the area, there are some fungicides that are available, but our hope is that we don't have a lot of water sitting on those. We could also do later on, we don't want to do it right now. We don't want to be really pruning maples right now because the sap could flow, but later in the summer season, you could selectively maybe prune some of the branches out just to open up some more air so that we get more airflow that's going in. If that red maple has a lot of foliage and a lot of inward growing branches, we're not getting that air circulation to dry it up. So those are some recommendations for you. Thanks for the question as well, T. We got Virginia. Hi, Frankie. Virginia from Farley Beach, town of Georgina on Lake Simcoe. Beautiful Lake Simcoe, that is. I just listened to your suggestion for moving a peony, and this made me wonder if a peony can be separated into two plants. Yeah, so depends on the variety of peony. If it's a herbaceous peony, which is a peony tree, which is a woody stem, that's a whole other process of division and also propagating. But for a regular peony, what happens is we look at them, and at this time, I'm going to do this with a bunch of pens just to show you. So at this time, out of the soil, all of a sudden we have all these little eyes just starting to pop out like that. So we see the peonies just coming up. So when we do a division, we want to remove the entire root. So we want to lift up the root, and then we want to cut in. And we want to make sure each division has at least 3 or 5 eyes. As long as it has 3 or 5, we can split it into more peonies and have more plants. Dividing it at this time of the year you shouldn't impact it, but you may have not as many blooms, but next year and future years, you will have a lot that are out there. We got, you know what? And this is what I love about this as well. Tanya's answering in as well. I'm going to tell you that what's really great about the community that we have on here, if you're here for the first time, if I don't get to answer your questions, everybody on the community here, if you know the answers, you have a suggestion, maybe there's somewhere where that product or something that people will really get excited about, please put it in the comments. Like, this is a whole place of us sharing information to make sure that our gardens are blooming great this year and blooming great every year, and maybe motivate somebody for the first time that's on there. Remember, some of the people on here maybe are really nervous gardeners, and we were all there. So we've all killed the plant. We've all done it all to the time. So we got Sue saying here as well. I chimed in late, not sure what your topic is today. I'm an outdoor plant garden. My neighbor left for me. How can I share a picture for some advice? So Sue, or Suze, what you can do is Frankie, that's Frankie with an IE, at frankieflowers.com. You can email me or just look at the website and you'll see how you can contact me on the website as well. We got Deanne, which is saying, lime tree plant, leaves are turning yellow and dropping, but flowering beautifully. I had about a month. I just repotted it with tropical soil to see if it would help. Any advice? So I wouldn't have repotted it, but it's okay that you did. That's fine, because what happens is if we're already getting it into a period of shock where it's going through a leaf drop, it's already going under stress. So one of the last things we want to do is probably to repot it because it's fairly new, because what will happen is we're going to put it into an additional stress. Same with the jade. You want to water only when dry, okay? Well, hopefully you didn't put it in too large of a container because it can actually cause a harm. The key with a lot of the limes is you can get scale, you can actually get spider mite, you can get some insects that are there. So the yellowing of the leaves is the other part too, is you just had it for a month. A lot of people don't realize this. So it was in a greenhouse and it had a lot of natural light. Comes into your home and all of a sudden doesn't have as much light. So it's going to adjust itself to the light. By adjusting itself to the light, often with citrus plants like lime or even hibiscus, they'll drop their foliage. They'll actually drop a lot of foliage. And then you don't, you still water when it's dry. Now, daylight hours are getting longer. We want to fertilize with an all-purpose fertilizer. Once it adjusts to the light levels, it actually put new leaves on there. So my recommendation right now, because you have done the repotting, just check for any insects that are there. Please allow it to dry out in between watering. And if you put it in like a really large pot, you may consider actually putting it back into the pot that it first came into. Question here that we have is, could I cut my elderberry to start new plants? So yes, you can take stem cuttings from elderberry, but if you're taking a stem cutting from an elderberry, we want to take the new shoots. The new shoots are going to be the easiest to root. Even with the elderberry, what you can do is on some of the side shoots that you see, you can actually pin those into the soil and they'll actually bear a root within about 4 to 6 weeks. And you just cut right from the soil once they bear the root, and you can have additional, but you can propagate that way. If you are propagating from stem cuttings, you would want to use a stem root, which is actually a growth hormone. So stem root number 2 would probably be the best one to use on that. We got Jerry saying hello from one of my favorite places, Prince Edward County. The entire province is beautiful, by the way. Some green tea. Christine, actually, there you go. We got Christine saying hi to her neighbor there as well. Christine's out there in the county as well. And we got Wendy. Hi, Wendy English. Hello from Alliston. Love Alliston. Haven't fertilized in years. Always got companies in. Anything you recommend for a weed and fertilizer? So the difficulty is with the weed and feed, with the cosmetic pesticide ban, we're very limited. If you are going to be, it depends on what type of weeds that you have. If you have crabgrass control, you're better off to use a weed and feed early in the season while those weed seeds are still in dormancy. You could still try it this week. So I would use the Turf Builder. I work with Scott's Miracle-Gro. So of course I'm going to recommend their products, but they are really good. So you can do the Scott's Turf Builder weed and feed. If you were to apply it, I would apply it this week. Then what you would next do is you would do some spot treatments of Weed B Gon on the dandelions, or do hand removal of the dandelions. Areas that you actually have over 50% weeds, you may consider actually tearing up those areas and actually putting sod down to replace that. So it's a whole strategy when it comes to your lawn overall. So I hope I kind of answered some of your questions that are there. We got Carol King from Hamilton. Hello to you this evening as well. We got Jerry from, I think, Stainer. Jerry Lynn, what is the best dwarf fruit for Stainer? One that grows straight up and is self-pollinating. So there are several different fruit trees that are self-pollinating. You actually have some fruit trees that actually have multiple varieties on one stem. Stainer is actually, fruit trees have relatively done well there. You'll do well with pear. You will do well with apples. You'll do considerably well with even some prunes. However, peach, cherry, those are a little bit more difficult for you. You could get a self-pollinating apple tree. So when you go into your garden center, you even see some of the 3-in-1s, which are 3 different varieties, the 2-in-1s. The key is when you go in. So what I'd be looking at is I'd be looking at apples, or I'd be looking at pears. Those would be your 2 best varieties. But you got to make sure that you're looking for a semi-dwarf to dwarf, mostly semi-dwarfs, and you're going to look for self-pollinating. So when you go into your local garden center, just make sure that number 1, self-pollinating. Number 2, it's either a dwarf or semi-dwarf. Most, if not all, of those fruit trees that are sold at garden centers right now are dwarfs and semi-dwarfs that are there as well. None of them will grow straight up. The straight up ones would be a culminator, so they will all branch out. No fruit trees or culminators that are out there. We got Carol King giving a comment as well. I started my vegetable seeds today with the Jiffy Pods. Jiffy Pods are fun. Those kind of expand themselves out. So I'm hoping that if you started your seeds, I'm hoping that it wasn't tomatoes and peppers, because we're getting a little bit late for tomatoes and peppers. But if you are starting indoors right now, yeah, cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, we can be doing that right now. We can be doing lettuce right now as well. In the next couple of weeks, because they are quick to germinate, and we can be doing this around the 1st of May, that's when we can be doing things like beans and peas at that time. So really pay attention to the back of those seed packs to tell you when to start germinating, because one of the number 1 failures of starting seeds is starting them too early. Or for the whole thing about tomatoes and peppers is the reason why we're getting a little bit late is the days to maturity to harvest the fruit. Depending upon the variety, sometimes you'll need over 100 days to maturity to harvest the fruit. And those plants, if they're too young, won't make it in time to bear fruit for you. So just let you know from that as well. We got Marianne. Hi, Frankie. Got one of your turkey and ham herb pots. Where and how much can I take to add to recipes? Thanks. Okay. These new to me. I guess these are some of the mixes that they've done at the greenhouse that I haven't seen yet. So you want to be harvesting herbs often. So for instance, I have my AeroGarden that's here, and I've been just cutting it often. Really what we want to do is we want to prevent it from going into a flowering stage or even seeing those flower buds. So we want to cut it then. We want to cut it no more than 1/3 at any one time. And really what we want to do is still make sure that we're leaving fairly much of the bulk of the plant. When we're cutting, you'll see that there'll be a stem like this. And then on that stem, let's say that right here, we have 2 little leaves coming out. We're just cutting above those 2 leaves. That bracket, that's where we want to cut. So that's easy to see on things like basil and sage, but on things like oregano, it's kind of hard to see, and even on thyme. So those you just cut with your scissors and away you go. And sometimes even cut them even if you don't need the herbs, because that new fresh growth will really keep them healthy overall. We got Linda saying hello this evening as well from Holland Landing. We got Matthew asking, when's the home show in Milton? I'll be at the home show in Milton on April the 27th at 2 p.m. So just let you know that there. Bill Kennedy, my friend Bill Kennedy from Utterly Smooth. Hey, buddy. I did see your text that you sent me about how you're getting your mascot, the big cow, ready for the eclipse tomorrow, putting glasses on it. Loved it. We just planted our 10-gallon Christmas tree ball, white pine in our backyard. What should we do to make sure that it can take root? Fertilizer. So just use a transplant fertilizer. You're going to be using something like a Quick Start, really key. Water it deeply, so soak it and then wait like 3 to 5 days. So I would even wait 5 days and then soak it again. Always deep and frequent watering is really key to make it root in. And as well, the eclipse. Just let people know, if you're wondering, if you're watching me for the first time, each and every day on breakfast television, I give the weather. So not only am I passionate about plants, this guy's wild about weather. Tomorrow is a big day. Of course, it's totality. It's where the eclipse happens, where the Toronto area will see about 99% coverage of the sun by the moon, whereas in the Niagara region, it'll be 100% coverage. However, it does look like tomorrow afternoon, we will see some clouds that are pushing their way through. We will still see the eclipse. We will. We will still see darkness. We will still feel the effects of the eclipse, meaning the temperature will drop. You're going to notice that birds will become quiet during that period of time. It will be an exceptional time, but a reminder, do not look directly at the sun. That will prevent damage to your eyes, long-term damage to your eyes. And, if you can't see, you can't see the beauty that's out there. We got Chandler saying, listening to you, building my interest in plants. I hope so as well. We got Lisa, which is doing a comment. This is going to be our last question for the day. Something is digging small holes all over my backyard. So many. It's digging for grubs. So that's something that could be digging for holes in your backyard. It could be either a raccoon. It could be skunks. It could even be birds. It can be moles. So the key is that food source, the grubs, we want to reduce that. Once again, Grub B Gon is the product that I recommend. You can also use nematodes, but Grub B Gon is a product that I recommend that you apply. Really read the directions for applications to have great success overall. We got Carol Davis with the last comment, which is saying, fiddles are good as well. Please try the hostas. I will, of course. Those hosta buds, she says, to try them and fry them up to eat. I'm going to tell you guys, wonderful evening joining you guys today. I'm so excited. The weather today was so inspiring. I'm so excited to do containers, to grow vegetables. I can't wait for my tomatoes outdoors. I can't wait to see my peonies in bloom, of course. Super excited. I hope you are too. Just a reminder, gardening is a journey. During that journey, you're going to have many successes, but as well, you're going to have some failures. Just laugh at yourself, learn, and love. So good evening, all. And tomorrow, totality, the eclipse. Take it all in. Nature is a wild and wonderful thing.